Clever Mistress Murray, retold by M. A. Jagendorf. Here's a historical folk tale about the woman who saved 4,000 American patriots from capture by the English redcoats. For many years, a painting commemorating her quick thinking hung at the New York Historical Society. Mistress Robert Murray and her husband, who was one of the richest merchants in New York City in the days of George Washington, had a beautiful summer home at what is now Fifth Avenue and 37th Street. Master Murray was a very clever Quaker merchant, and Mistress Murray was a very clever lady, with a quick wit and a quick mind. There was one giant disagreement between them. Master Murray believed in the British cause, and Mistress Murray and her beautiful daughters were heart and soul with the men who were fighting to make America independent. And so men from both sides visited their lovely country home. Came the day when the British landed in Kip's Bay, which is on the east side of Manhattan, to capture General Washington and his army. The British outnumbered the Americans, and so the Americans were in retreat. All but 4,000 men, under the command of General Putnam, had gotten well away on the Bloomingdale Road. Now the Americans needed time to move the rest. That very day, General Washington was visiting Mistress Murray and her lovely daughters at their summer home. Master Murray was away on business. "The British are on the march," said Mistress Murray. "I know that well, madam, but we'll escape and we'll win. At the moment, we need just a few more hours. Old Putnam and his men are hard on the march to join the army that's up on the shores of the Hudson River. When he joins them, all will be safe." "True indeed, General. Thee knowest well, he who fights and retreats away lives to fight another day." They all laughed. "Well said, Mistress Murray, and I thank you from my very heart for a few happy and restful hours. Now I must be off to my men. You can hear the thunder of the cannons." They all said good-bye and good luck, and off went the general and two officers over the hills and heights. The British were indeed on the march, headed by General William Howe and his officers. These men rode ahead of their troops and were approaching the home of the Murrays. General Howe and Master Robert Murray were staunch friends, and so the British general decided to stop off for a little time at the Murrays' home. Mistress Murray and her beautiful daughters were out listening to the sound of the approaching troops. Suddenly in the distance they saw a group of brightly dressed officers approaching. "They are coming this way, mother." "Yes, methinks it is General Howe and his staff. Daughters, we must do our best to keep General Howe here as long as possible, so General Putnam and his men can escape. Remember, General Washington said he needs a few more hours." "We will do our best. Here they are, mother." And so they all went out on the green, sweet smiles of welcome on their lips. Soon the British general and a large number of his staff rode up on prancing horses. "Good day to you, beautiful Mistress Murray, and to your lovely daughters," said General Howe. "Welcome to our home, General. Thee and thy officers must alight and refresh yourselves a while. There is good cake and repast, and you must taste the wines my daughters and I have made from berries. I have just brought up some 5-year-old mulberry wine, and we also have good Madeira from England. Nothing will give me greater pleasure. A happy hour with you, mistress, will shorten a whole week's hard work." The general and his officers dismounted. General Howe continued, "I'll get that ragtail, bobtail mob that calls itself an army and their misguided officers when I'm ready. For the present, it will be a great joy to be in such charming company." The girls curtsied and smiled at the red-coated officers. "Sir," said the eldest of the girls, "I helped mother make the mulberry wine. It is truly delicious, and you must try the fine Madeira of which mother spoke." The table was richly set with fine cakes and dainties. Decanters gleamed with golden yellow and dark ruby wines. Howe and his officers forgot all about battles and soldiers, even though they could hear now and then the cannons thundering. They ate freely and drank deeply, and discussed the fire that had just swept through the city. The hours went by. Well fed, richly entertained by good conversation, the men slowly began to get ready to leave. "We must keep them longer," Mistress Murray whispered to her eldest daughter. The Murrays had an unusually beautiful young serving girl, and Mistress Murray had noticed that the young officers had paid considerable attention to her. "Gentlemen," said Mistress Murray gaily, "I know it's time to go, but what is a fine repast without a fine song? Young Daisy, my little maid, besides being so pretty, has a charming voice. Yes, and we have just received some wonderful songs from England, said the eldest daughter. Why not have her sing for us? Ay, come, gentlemen, just a little longer. You must listen to Daisy's singing, said Mistress Murray. I'll fetch more mulberry wine and more cold meats and cakes. These should go well with the songs, said the youngest daughter. The men felt warm and happy, and were only too glad to stay. Daisy sang Sally in Our Alley and many others, and the men drank more while the hands on the clock moved steadily. Finally, the men reluctantly went out to mount their horses. Mistress Murray and her daughters were on the steps. The roaring of the cannons had died down, and there was no more smoke in the blue air. A young officer came dashing up to the mounting officers. Sir, he spoke quickly to General Howe. Sir, the rebels have escaped through McGowan's Pass. All of 'em, with their leader, Putnam. Perhaps if we had left early. General Howe was too comfortable with food and wine to be bothered. Young man, the fine feast and good wines and lovely entertainment served by these lovely, loyal ladies are of much greater importance than that riff-raff mob of rebels. We can catch them any time. We don't find such entertainment every day. Thank you, lovely mistress and lovely girls, and you, sweet little Daisy. The officers joined in thanks, and the red-coated officers rode away. Mistress Murray stood on the steps, radiant and smiling. Her daughters, their faces flushed and their eyes shining, stood with her. The entertainment was successful indeed, said Mistress Murray. General Putnam and his 4,000 men had plenty of time to join General Washington's army up the Hudson. He who fights and retreats away lives to fight another day. And her daughters smiled knowingly.